is very, very important, and it still will be. How it will all develop after COVID, this is something we want to talk to today. And I'm very positive that we will get back, but it'll take at least 2 to 3 years. And I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you, Stephan. Let me introduce another forwarder and GSA and consolidator and also board representative of TIACA, the big International Air Cargo Association, Mr. Christos Spyrou, CEO and founder, TIACA board member.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure being here on that panel, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. So I've been pretty much all my life in the airfreight industry. I have 30 years of experience. Half of them in China. I used to live in China for pretty much 15 years. And I'm the CEO and founder of Mutual Air Partner. It's a network of air cargo logistics specialists around the world. And I'm also an executive board member of TIACA, the International Air Cargo Association. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to our discussions.
Thank you. And now I ask our technician team to connect Mr. Majid Khan, Vice President Aviation Development from Istanbul Airport. So yeah, everything goes well and the technique works, then we will see Majid on the screen. If not, then we continue with others. So
that much for Zoom meetings.
Doesn't seem to work.
No problem. So that's we can continue with the others. Okay, Majid. It's wow.
Hello, everyone. Hello, nice meeting you. I think it seems like I'm the only one who couldn't attend because of unfortunately, we do still have travel restrictions, as you know, around the world. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm a VP Aviation Development of Istanbul Airport, so heading our passenger and cargo business. We are the world's largest airport built from scratch, as you know, within 42 minutes. And we had moved to our new airport back in April 2019, and I came to Istanbul Airport in February 2020, so 43 days before the pandemic hit us, actually. I've been almost 11 years in the aviation sector, working with passenger and cargo business, first at Copenhagen Airport, and then Avinor Airports in Norway, where I was heading the aviation business there, and now Istanbul Airport. So I will gonna tell a bit about what we have done during this pandemic, how we are recovering our passenger and cargo business, and the challenges we do see concerning this recovery process.
Thank you, Majid. So today we are in a very lucky situation that we have a nice matchup of freight forwarders, airlines, airports, consolidators, GSA is on the stage, even TIACA, which is one of the largest air cargo association of the world. I would show some slides as an introduction of our conversation. So, dear technical team, please help us, or we can continue with the slides of Majid if you like, if feels it is better. Okay, Majid? Are you ready to present your slides? Okay.
Great, let's see how...
You can share your screen. Thank you.
Great. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I will give a brief overview about our huge and that's mostly because we have limited time, so I will not spend more than 2-3 minutes and give
Majid, may I ask you just to wait a second, please, before your present. Okay, now you can go with your presentation. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, great. Yeah, when we look on Istanbul Airport, as you know, before we moved to this airport, we were really struggling with some space. We had an airport in downtown Istanbul, Atatürk, where we were struggling with space. Airlines couldn't, they couldn't operate because we didn't have capacity, not only for airlines, but also for full freighters. So at our new facilities, our area is quite large, as you can see, 76.5 million square meters. This airport is built for the future, and when we have to compare with some of the existing airports in the world, I mean, you can see, I mean, the size of Frankfurt versus Istanbul, the blue one, the same with Schiphol and Beijing Airport. We have split our project into four phases. The first phase is actually, as you can see here, we have our main terminal building. We have, our terminal building has a capacity for officially 19, but we can accommodate up to 110 million passengers. We have currently 3 runways fully operational. When we count our auxiliary runways, we have actually 5. So the distance between these 2 runways is 1.2 kilometers. This is our cargo city. As you can see, quite conveniently located between the two parallel runways, and the entrance is actually this area. Each runway can currently handle 120 movements per hour per runway. But when all the phases are fully complete, as you can see, which we expect in the next 8 to 9 years, we will be able to accommodate more than 150 million passengers, and we will have 6 runways, 5 parallel, one cross runway. And when we count all the auxiliary runways, we will have 8 runways actually at that stage. We have actually an agreement that as soon as we cross 80 million passengers at Istanbul Airport, we will start constructing Terminal 2. And one of the reasons we want to do that, because we know how the capacity issues are around airports, especially around Europe. So we would like to prevent that. Concerning the cargo city, as you can see here, located between our two parallel runways, we had 1.3 million tons of cargo in 2019. That was the year where we moved to Istanbul Airport. And the plan was for Turkish cargo to move by 2020, and when the pandemic hit us. So for the time being, we have around of the total Istanbul cargo, when we say Istanbul Airport and Istanbul Atatürk Airport, we have around 44% share at the moment. The rest is at Atatürk Airport. We had 1.3 million tons as well in 2020, despite the pandemic. And this year, until August, we have reached 1 million tons, where our share is 44%. But we expect, of course, a huge boost next year, because Turkish cargo is expecting to move the entire operation to our airport. Which would definitely boost our cargo. And by 2023, we expect actually our annual cargo capacity to reach 5.5 million tons, as you can see here. So on the full freighter side, we have 20 carriers, 70 airlines. We have actually more passenger airlines now, despite the pandemic, than we had in 2019. And the reason we have more, instead of scaling down our activities, we decided to invest in the future, invest for the post-COVID-19 era. We finished, for instance, the construction of the third runway. We looked at new markets because the flow has completely changed in this industry during the pandemic. So it has helped us to attract some new airlines which were never operating at Istanbul Airport. That was mainly about the fact. I will not go so much into the passenger business because this is not our topic today. So I would like to give the word. And then, as you can see, this is our terminal building, 560 check-in counters. World's largest passenger terminal under one. So, this is our airport. Great. I could speak hour about it, but due to the limitation of the time, so I will try to give a brief introduction. Please.
Okay, thank you, Majid. So we can continue. It was a big congratulations, amazing project at a very short timeline, and it is very good to see the new cargo capacities coming to the market as well, because the actual cargo development around the world needs more capacities and investments and projects like this. So it was really nice to see. Then I would like to ask the technician team, please share my slide. Okay, the first one. Thanks a lot. So some introductory words about the air cargo transportation the last 1.5, 2 years in the air freight industry before our discussion starts. It was very interesting that basically if we go back to the times and the era before the COVID, there was also some global issues that the air freight industry and the air cargo transportations had to face. There was some slowdown starting around the end of 2018, and also continued in 2019, caused by some global problems, some trade fights between different countries. Big companies were blocked. They could not export their cargo to the other country, and we all know well that the air freight industry and trading is working well if there are no difficulties, if the moving of the cargo and the goods are very easy between the countries. There are other issues in the automotive industry, 2019, 18, 19 as well, especially in the traditional automotive manufacturing, which also caused some falling out volumes for the air freight industry. By end of 2019, the numbers were getting better, so increase again several areas and locations like Asia Pacific, North America or Europe. And finally, the 2018 was not so bad, and also 2019 was a bit under the 2018 numbers, so minus 3.5% by the end of 2019. But something started. Numbers started ramping up, going to the, I wouldn't say to the sky, but developing very dynamic. What happened? The COVID came. It started causing heavy difficulties and challenges for the aviation industry in spring of 2020. Especially first what we have seen, big issues in Asia, in China, factories closed. There was videos posted on the web that people were falling and collapsing on the street. Nobody knew what we were facing, and also it had immediate effect for the aviation. What happened? All the belly cargo connections stopped. So or most of them stopped, especially the long-haul flights. 50% of the global air freight was transported on as belly cargo on the lower deck of the passenger aircraft. This capacity has gone, which was not an immediate huge problem for the industry because we lost 30–40% of the volumes as well. For sure, there were relations between different continents and countries where there was a problem, but that was at that very moment, that was not a big crisis, but immediately what we faced and what we have seen, that the demand for the freighter operations, the cargo flights, started booming because of the medical transportations. So last spring, air freight was the only solution. If you wanted to bring PPEs, masks, ventilators, protection clothes to protect your country and fight against the COVID. Rates went to the skies, the era of freighters started. There were difficulties because all the airlines, all the ground handlers, all the airports had to solve the problems that we had to protect our staff. We had to protect the country, we had to follow the travel restrictions, how, for example, a crew of a cargo flight can enter into a country. So, for example, at Budapest Airport, we had to react very fast. We had 1–2 days to build up everything, to protect the crew, to protect also to follow the local regulations in the COVID restrictions. This peak of the medical transportation was over by summer. Luckily, the normal cargo started recovering and coming back. And what we have seen that by end of 2020, beginning of 2021, the cargo volumes got back to the pre-COVID level, even recently are above the pre-COVID level, but the belly cargo capacity is still missing. And I guess globally 50%, Sergio is with us from IATA, so he can also help, but maybe Christos from Tiaka, you have more updated information, but globally it is something like 50% of the pre-COVID level, the belly cargo capacity. So we have pre-COVID volumes now, the aviation has pre-COVID volumes, the air cargo transportation, but capacities are under of the pre-COVID level. We have some promising things. So this is what you see on the slide. Volumes reach the pre-COVID level. Global trading numbers, predictions, trends are promising. Especially e-commerce is booming. So there are some positive signs which will show that the air cargo volumes and demand will grow in the upcoming years. And now the aviation industry and the air cargo industry is facing the issue how can we handle this with capacities, flights, cargo handling, warehouses, stuff in the recent challenges. So I would like to turn to the audience to ask first that how did you feel? Which were the major challenges and changes in the air freight in the last 1.5, 2 years due to COVID and due to maybe other effects from the macroeconomy? Arnulf, would you start with the?
So first of all, air freight is a service industry. Yeah? And actually we are here to serve shippers like Martin and Lenovo. And I don't think you really liked what has happened the last 1.5 years. Yeah? I think the major effects were, first of all, unpredictability to a great extent, and then there was also a raise in cost. Yeah? And the question will be, is there going to be a long-term effect now? When is that going to be over? And honestly speaking, I talked to a couple of people while I was here already. There is a lot of optimism. Yeah? And unfortunately, I'm not so optimistic, yeah? Even though I'm a very optimistic person. Yeah? But as you rightly said, the reason why I believe, first of all, that the cost level will remain high is because the passenger capacity, so cargo capacity on passenger aircraft, has actually, first of all, completely disappeared and is now maybe back to whatever, 30–40%. And the reason why this is a major effect is because on a passenger aircraft, cargo is actually a byproduct. And it's produced at a different cost level, or at least the customer will let's say, not pay for the entire cost on that aircraft in most of the cases. Whereas if you fly on a freighter aircraft, there is only one product on it, and that actually gives you a different cost basis. Yeah? And honestly speaking, I looked a lot into numbers before I prepare, or when I prepared, and they have a lot to do now with the passenger side. Yeah? And the passenger side is really in its deepest crisis ever. And I'm in the airline industry, I can even say all my life, yeah, because I was born in an airliner's family, so I grew up with that, but I have never ever seen anything like it. And the way out for the passenger side will be extremely difficult, if you ask me. I can share a couple of numbers with you, maybe the first one. Europe had 65,000 pilots before COVID, and now there is 18,000 less. Yeah? These people went into all kinds of jobs. Yeah? So to just bring them back into the industry, yeah? Some might come back, some might find their ways into other areas, but it will not happen from one day to the next. And a pilot is a qualified person, yeah? So you cannot just appoint someone as a pilot and he flies tomorrow. So that's just one of the numbers, yeah? That gives an indication that it will not be a quick turnaround for the passenger side. The airlines have lost something like 100 billion euros last year totally, and that of course includes whatever the contribution that came from cargo. They have achieved or gained a lot of government aid, but most of that is actually as a loan, so they will have to pay that back. At the end of the day, what happened is that the debt burden of the airlines went up considerably, and that means they are restricted also in investments for the future. Yeah? I just spoke to Michael from LOT, who he will be on the stage tomorrow. Of course, he's now a big guy because he's the head of cargo in LOT, and he says he's now contributing like 30% of the airline's revenue from the cargo side. That's obviously, for a cargo person like me, that's a wonder world, because normally it was something like 10 to 15% as a maximum. But the question will be, and now, of course, as a cargo person, you start to dream of freighters and bring in the investment. But at the end, the investment has to come from the airlines, and they will keep on suffering for a while. So this is why I say, from my perspective, yeah, and I will be really interested then to hear from you, Martin, what really changed in your way of looking at the world. From my perspective, we are not done with the the COVID era as we had in the topic. I believe we are still in the very middle of it, and a lot of things have changed. And I'm not going now deep into consumer behavior. I was asking the gentleman, say, when was your last long-haul trip? Everybody said, 2 years ago. And then I asked the question, say, who has planned one? And then it was dead silent. Obviously, tourism will come back very quickly, there is no doubt. Cargo is at a high, so it's all good. But the typical, let's say, income from an airline, where you really made money, is actually the business travel. And business travel suffered extremely. It will not come back quickly. It will, of course, recover, but that will have an effect on the passenger side of airlines, and that will have an effect also long-term on the cargo section and on air freight. So that's just an overall perspective as I have it.
Thank you, Arnulf. Martin, Arnulf addressed this question to you, that as a shipper, what did you feel in the last 1.5, 2 years in your logistics supply? And is the new situation, did change something at Lenovo, for example, way of thinking, maybe moving back factories to Europe, maybe changing a bit the supply flows and chains? Was any change in your logistics strategy like this?
Obviously, as I think any large shipper these days, where you rely on your production base being, let's say, in Asia Pacific, air freight is crucial. So any changes, any disruptions that you see coming into it are kind of like heavily impacting you, right? When I look into how COVID started for us, and where we felt the most pain, it wasn't so much that actually the capacity disappeared. I mean, like, you are always used to some kind of a crisis, and you try to adapt with the partner base that you have and look for and seek for solutions. But it was I think the speed, right? From one day to another, suddenly the capacities weren't there, right? The airlines, they committed the volumes, the cooperations that you had. So the suppliers that we dealt with were not able from one day to another accommodate the volumes that we needed, right? And I think over time, as an industry, there were been ways found on how to cope with it. The freighters out of the desert were pulled in, right, when the first passenger flights had been grounded. We saw as well in the last couple of months, especially of this year, conversions, right? First of all, packages into the seats. Second stage was seats out, right? The third stage is full-blown transitions or transfers of the passenger flights, where you get new cargo doors into it. You kind of like take the bottom away, and as well in the recent news you see as well some of the large airlines buying new freighters. But I think we are not that far away from a situation where even when the passenger flight's going to come in, I think, as you rightly said, the airlines now see that cargo is a revenue stream, which it wasn't historically. Usually the passengers and the business class was paying for the planes, and cargo was quite cheap to get anywhere. If you look even on, let's say, Vienna, flying across the globe, there were flights 5 times a day to any location that you imagine. That's a lot of cargo that you could move, right? And these days it doesn't exist.
60 cents a kilo, 70 cents a kilo.
So yeah, so I mean, like, procurement was all about cents, right? Right now it's not anymore. And I think we're going to be seeing that the airline's going to be keeping as a revenue stream. And maybe when passengers are going to be coming in, it's going to be more about different types of aircrafts. Maybe we will not see anymore so much cargo capacity being moved off this particular channel, but it's going to be staying in freighters. I don't see it coming that, look on the suppliers, right? Or let's say the logistics providers, many of them are deploying own networks, chartering, full charters. Those are deals for 12 or 24 months. They need to keep a certain positive business case out of it, and they will not so be motivated in the next couple of months to reduce the pricing. So For us, it's not only how we cope with the situation, but what's going to be coming as well going forward, trying to be cost competitive to ensure we have enough capacity protections, but as a cost that our clients can, let's say, pay and are willing to pay for the services offered. So it's not over. That's what I would try to say.
No. And Martin, do you use more often air freight now, or does Lenovo use more often air freight now than 2 years ago?
Lenovo as a high-tech company has been fortunate. If you look on the growth in the market for the capacity, it's first high-tech and then it's automotive. I think perishables and I can't remember the second one. The perishables was mainly on decline. So yes, it changed a lot. I mean, like the new COVID era brought a situation as we are not flying. Everybody needs a computer equipment. There are online sessions. You need a monitor. You need a computer. You need maybe a notebook and a desktops when you physically at home, and that drove a lot of demand. And for us, that meant that as COVID hit, I mean, like if you go back, I mean, like we had the tariff wars that kept us busy. Then COVID hit, and for the last 2 years, we did not really have a summer holiday, right? So it's always looking for ways of finding the right solutions, right, with the right partners. It meant for us as well to change the approach. We tend to have our supplier base accredited, where we played our, let's say, eggs into the baskets, right? But then with the situation, we saw that we need to go into a multi-layer setup. We need more partners. We need to split the volumes. We can't rely on 1-2 major freight forwarders or airlines. And we opened ourselves as well to the market. So I think that gave a lot of opportunity to the smaller companies out there, and enabled us with new cooperations and allowed us to maintain our cost competitiveness and be the world's largest computer manufacturer, right? So,
yeah. Thank you. And you just opened a new factory in Hungary, so that's also great news to the local market. Stephan, we talked about passenger freighters. Passenger freighters. Arnulf mentioned as well. Also, Martin mentioned that maybe they are moving back to the passenger business. You also cooperate with passenger freighter operators. What's your opinion about also the effects in the last 1.5, 2 years, and will this change? Will this pattern change now?
Of course. I mean, with the lack of the passenger flights and losing about 50% of the capacity in the market, of course, the industry all of a sudden was in a very difficult position how to make up for the cargo. I mean, the airlines who had cargo operating aircrafts were actually the winners of this pandemic. I mean, if I just speak for my national carrier, Lufthansa, obviously having a freighter fleet, I mean, they were really the heroes of the industry all of a sudden, while cargo was never as sexy as it is today, being able and to make money, actually. So, of course, all the freighters are in the air at the moment. It's very difficult to find capacities. I think the question is, a lot of freight forwarders have started to operate their own freighters. So they're actually taking away the business that the airlines used to do. So the question is, if this continues like this, will one day the freight forwarder become more or less an airline? Will they be able to continue to have own freighters in the air, or will it go back to what it was previously once the passenger flights come back into place? Because, of course, cargo that is flown on a passenger aircraft, as Arnulf already said so, is halfly paid by the passengers, and cargo obviously is the bonus that can be carried. So, if you look into Europe, for instance, there are not many cargo aircraft or airlines. So they have all actually given away their cargo fleet. Lufthansa is one of them who still have cargo aircraft. But I think that it is difficult for freight forwarders in the long term just to run freighter services. So, but this is something we will see what will develop in the future. Of course, the airlines who have cargo capacity at the moment are the winners, and of course can gamble with their space. So what we've been doing so far, when you made your blocked space agreements for the summertime or for the winter schedule, you could buy fixed rates which you could sell to your customers and secure your space. this is only partly given at the moment. So at the moment, the airlines rather sell their space on an ad hoc basis to the market rate that is currently available. So that's where actually, for them, they are in a big advantage making money. So we need to, of course, we need the passenger aircraft to come back into place that we're more on the flexible side. I also have to say that a lot of the big multinational freight forwarders who actually have the power to sign block space agreements with the airlines are also not that better off. So mid-sized companies like you are, Quick Cargo Service, Cargomind, obviously, I think we are also part of the winners because we can be much more flexible, and we're not that much asset-driven as some of the big companies, and yeah, that's what the market is at the moment. So, but nobody has the marble glass bowl where we can look into what the future will bring.
Thank you, thank you. Arnulf, you may have an opinion about this. I've seen the reaction that, how you feel that, will this change back? Because as Stephan mentioned, freight forwarders are running their own passenger freighters. You are a freight forwarder.
Well,
I have seen that you
correct
on your
a
face.
little bit because you just lease them, so you don't run a freighter.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
And
buy
to
the
operate an
capacities,
aircraft,
to
sure. Invest into an aircraft, to invest into whatever, the pilot's training and whatever there is, into the spare parts, the maintenance and things. So to operate an aircraft is something else than leasing it. Most of and of course, there are forwarders we all know that do operate aircraft. There's no doubt. That's the very big ones, because they are big enough, and primarily they use those aircraft for the express part of the business. So that's obviously DHLs and you know them all, the integrators. So they know how to operate such a fleet. If for newcomers to now start and say, okay, I'm going to be an airline, I wish them all good luck. Obviously, of course, you enter into a longer term risk, because normally you would have a lease term of maybe half a year or something, and you take a risk, but that's much more calculated. You can easily calculate that.
Thank you.
So honestly, I don't think that's for a normal freight forwarding company that's going to be the future. We rather see some of the operators now on the ocean side. Then some shippers we see that they invest into their own fleets, like Amazon, for example. So that might be, and if you ask me, we don't know. Maybe there is a company from Finland that used to make boots that now starts to come up with cargo ideas and starts to invest into drones in the future and things like this. So I think there is a lot of movement in the industry, because the traditional airlines, as I said, they are having serious problems. There is no doubt it's a good time for cargo, and that will last for a certain while. And now the question is, what will that have effects on the players in the market? And we do see some.
New times, new changes, and new products are popping up. Christos, what do you think about this future of passenger freighters, own freighter operation for freight forwarders, dedicated one? Will this stay on the market?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would like to go 18 months back and to see that I will have to congratulate the entire air cargo community, because air cargo has been in the front line against COVID since the beginning, and we have done an amazing job. And considering we had to find solutions with limited capacity, with zero belly capacity, let's start from the beginning, for the high demand of the PPE goods, then we had the vaccines, some critical cargo, because we had planes and ships and factories to keep on moving, the boom in e-commerce, the new, e-shopping trends, which, now e-commerce is, we talk about 20% of the freight volumes. It's huge, and it's going to get, IATA anticipates something like 30% the next 2 years. So, considering an industry that is very fragmented, if you look at the air cargo industry, the air cargo supply chain, you will have the trader, the shipper, the freight forwarder, consolidator, GSA, ground handling agent, and then the other way around. To have such an industry adapt in this kind of change and disruption, it's not easy. And we did it. So, first of all, congratulations to the entire industry. It has been amazing. So, talking about also the freighters and how we see things, I mean, if you look now the effects on what happened, I would say, the last months, okay, of course, we had the e-commerce boom, the maritime challenges, so air cargo also had to assist the shipping disruption, I would say, with the containers and the long transit times and so on. So what we see recently, the traditional, I mean, going back to the freight forwarder, of course, it's connected with the shippers as well. The traditional freight forwarder I would say, has been transformed to a broker, if you want to survive. I mean, since the airlines cancel all block space agreements, and since you don't have a schedule somewhere, you don't know which airline's flying from where to where, the traditional freight forwarder has to be transformed to a broker to be able to find solutions, different origins, different destinations, construct rates, and that's actually much more time. That's why a lot of small and medium-sized air freight professionals, they really survived during the crisis, and some of them also made a lot of money. Now, you will see also some multinationals, they're facing some challenges because for them it was just an SOP, was a block space with one carrier, then you got to move it. So if you don't have people trained to be flexible and brokers, that's a bit difficult. And that's why also we see the trend with new freighters coming in, freight forwarders running aircrafts and so on. I don't see that will continue. I mean, we always had freight forwarders, or two or three, a group of forwarders together running a freighter to South Africa or Australia, you know, some key destinations where there was not a lot of capacity, and that will always happen. But at the same time, either they will use another brand, operate as a neutral carrier or as a GSA, and so on. So, I mean, even the Amazons of the world, the DHL, the FedEx, the SF Express in China or the YTO, they have their own aircrafts, right? But at the same time, they operate under different brands as an airline. They're still selling back to freight forwarders for the majority of the capacity. So I don't really see that happening as a trend. But a lot of changes, I mean, certainly will happen. The airlines, as Stephan said now, they prefer to quote on ad hoc basis. Block space agreements are cancelled. Freight forwarders, they have to be a bit more flexible. They do have to choose specific destinations. They do have to differentiate themselves from the crowd, specialize in certain areas. I think we're going to see consolidation to pick up again because the rates are so high. So the freight forwarder needs to find solution to give a lower rate to the shippers. So consolidation will also become a trend. I mean, and obviously for the next 2 years, I don't see, I mean, if you said about the numbers now, it's like we're almost at the pre-COVID level, the volumes, like almost 2019.
Yes.
And we have e-commerce still booming. I mean, everybody talks about the peak of the peak that is coming now, the super peak of the peak. The passengers, you have the freighters that slowly they will go back to the passenger business. So it's going to be less capacity for the cargo industry, as long as the economies are open and there are more flights. Then again, I feel, and you can tell me more because you have the airline experience for 30 years, I feel that the airlines, when they manage the network post-COVID, when slowly the economies are open, they will manage smarter than before. So they will choose, I don't think they will open so many destinations like back in 2019. I mean, now they're smarter, they lost so much money. They will not just go to buy a market share and put in 5 flights a day to one destination. It will be 2, or they will not do the crazy destination. So all of this will create, I would say, still a capacity shortage. And considering the high demand of air freight for all the reasons I explained, I mean, that will definitely happen. So yeah, a lot of changes. I forgot to mention, very important, the airlines, they see, I mean, as per IATA, officially it's 34% of the airline revenues, cargo. Cargo counts for the 34% at this moment. So eventually they will treat it more seriously, and they will try to offer, I would say, a more serious product. And I see in the long run that air cargo will be treated much more seriously. It will have to fly as booked. If it is a no-show, you will pay a penalty or everything. I mean, that's how I see, I mean, in the next year to come, the air freight product coming in, how the airlines will sell capacity.
So hopefully that will be how would I say, a natural risk mitigation on the aviation, that passenger freighters are going back to the passenger operation, but meanwhile the long-haul passenger flights may come back, like the United States also eased a bit the travel restrictions, and maybe the belly cargo is coming back. But in general, we see that there is always a lack of capacity in this game.
You see the belly cargo is coming back on the domestic market. You will see Europe, you will see United States, but you don't see the long haul. And then all the freighters are coming back to serve the domestic passenger.
Thank you, Christos. I would ask our technicians to try to switch on Majid from Istanbul, and let's ask him at how a big cargo gateway airport like Istanbul Airport thinks now about the COVID effects on the cargo, passenger freighter operation, which were the experiences of him in the last 1.5, 2 years.
Great. When we look since the pandemic, I mean, back in April, May, where we went from, I mean, we had 69 million passengers, 1.3 million tons of cargo in 2019, and suddenly we were standing there with a quite empty airport back in April and May 2020. So, I mean, what our conclusion was that all the data we have from the last couple of years literally had zero value. So we had to think differently. We could see the flows had completely changed. Whether we look on the passenger flow or the cargo flow, I mean, we are a natural hub, as you know, between east and west and north and south. I mean, that's due to our geographical location. But this has changed during this pandemic. Concerning the passenger freighters, we believe this is temporary. This will not gonna come back again. But when we look on the flows, I mean, then we thought, okay, either we can sit and wait, or we can start looking on markets where there are less travel restrictions to Turkey. That's actually what we did. There is no, we know there was huge volume from the USA via Istanbul, but due to travel restrictions, it couldn't make sense to look at it. So the markets which we looked on was mainly Russia, CIS, GCC market, and some of the North African markets actually. And what we have seen a lot of point-to-point potential increasing, especially from Russia. I mean Russia and CIS. And when it concerns the Middle East, when we ask the airlines, the business class traffic is back, but it's not from business class passengers, but it's mainly high yield, leisure passengers where our traffic is back. The same concern Russia and CIS. So we have seen recovery of VFR traffic. We have seen recovery of, leisure traffic. Our cargo, of course, the full freight. We do have, of course, the prices have skyrocketed, unfortunately. But what our main focus is to focus on the belly cargo. Whenever we go to network planners of cargo airlines, that we keep getting the same message from all of them. Don't talk to us the next year or two because our capacity is occupied. Go and bring the belly cargo. So this is what we are focusing on. We are focusing on belly cargo. Our airport has recovered quite well. we had 69 million passengers in 2019. Last year we ended on 23 million on the passenger side. This year, this month we are actually on 80% capacity compared to 2019. And the main reason is that we have managed to develop traffic from some markets which we could see high potential is. That's GCC again. That's Russia, CIS, the domestic market is of course huge. A market like Pakistan, by the way, which I always say is a sleeping target, has a sleeping tiger. It has boomed. On long haul, USA is our best market at the moment. Both in terms of passenger and cargo. For instance, in terms of passenger business, we do, because we are going through a consolidation in the industry. That's quite obvious. The bigger players are getting even bigger. The smaller ones are struggling. So when we do see among airlines, we have Lufthansa Group, Air France, KLM, IAG, and then Turkish Airlines. We believe they will gonna recapture the market quicker than some of the smaller or mid-size airlines. So we do see a lot of flow even from Germany via Istanbul to the USA, or from Baltics or Scandinavia via Istanbul, because we are going through the consolidation. So we have a belief, we have a clear target that by 2023 we should be able to reach 2019 figures. And instead of focusing on 200 different countries, I mean, we are focusing on our niche areas, and that's of course the domestic market, and that is I mean, Russia, CIS, I mean, the whole Caucasus region. We believe in subcontinent as soon as the travel restrictions will be removed, and GCC, the area where we do see some long-term waiting time, where we have seen huge negative effects, is mainly China, Korea, Japan, because of the restrictions. We think we have some kind of hope that 2022 can be the year to slowly kickstart, but it's creating some challenges for us. Some of the main challenges which we do see for the whole industry, which will directly affect cargo as well, that airports in general are unfortunately increasing, I mean, the airport charges. We do see aviation taxes being implemented, and we do even see some COVID-19 charges being implemented at airports. And this is something we I mean, monitor, I mean, very, very clearly, because we could see during the last, I mean, 2 decades, airports' role have been like, I mean, infrastructure providers, while airlines or passenger or cargo airlines, they have been taking all the risk. We believe it's about cooperation now in a COVID-19 era. So at Istanbul Airport, we took a very important decision that we will keep our charges at the current level. We have 0 aviation tax in Turkey, and then we will gonna keep investing in infrastructures which can help airlines to have operational efficiency at our airport. So we believe, so we believe it's really, really important that we focus as an airport. I can speak, being employed in an airport, that we focus on what can we do to help the industry, because we have a role to play as well, instead of just being infrastructure provider. So on the passenger freight, we believe this is something which was temporary. I mean, full freight, we believe this is something which may take 2-3 years, because they have some kind of backlog which they have to, and they are quite well occupied, which is good for cargo business. But we need to focus on belly cargo. Belly cargo capacity is quite important to recover.
Thank you, Majid. It is very good to see that. I'm working for Budapest Airport, so we are also an airport, and we are focusing on the same topics in the cargo development, like the increasing the connectivity of the airport, so more cargo flights, belly cargo also, and freighter operation, increase the capacities, invest into infrastructure, and develop the cargo environment, however we can, like digitization and new technologies. And it is good to see your growth rates, and I'm very proud to say that I have to say this, that at Budapest Airport we have 40% growth rate in the air cargo volumes this year, and 35% compared to 2019. So we are knocking it on wood, on the winner side of the actual the last 2-3 years, not because of the COVID. It is not because of the COVID, it is because of our development strategy. You also mentioned the same things like
a lot on Istanbul Airport concerning air freight. That's on our air cargo community, because the issue is we have too many stakeholders. Everyone is running in their own direction, and so we believe, as we do see on the passenger side, on cargo side as well, we need an aligned cooperation. We need to develop an air cargo community, so everyone can see that we can make the cake bigger together, and not individually. So we believe that I mean, digitalization is important. Enhancing the operation efficiency is quite important, but aligned cooperation, that, I mean, this is priority number 1 for us among the cargo community in Istanbul.
Thank you. The community is very important, and you know that together we are stronger. Yes. Exactly. Thank you, Majid. I would turn to the panelists with the same question. We had 18 minutes still from the panel discussion, so everybody will have time to explain and share his view that what is now really important and key for a forwarder, for an airline, for a GSA, for a consolidator to be successful in the air freight in 1, 2, 3, 5 years. So what are the focus points now? To Martin, the question will be a bit, the question could be the same to you, that how you believe as a shipper for an airline to be successful in the air freight, but we can start with Christos, the key focus points, what we need to follow, the industry, next years.
Yes, I mean, I feel the industry has changed, the air freight forwarder needs to change. The days where everything was easy, you could have a block space on one destination, and you had the schedules, and you could move freight. This has changed. So as I said before, air freight forwarders, they need to become more open-minded. You need a bit more training on people that they are flexible to find solutions for the client. Because the solution, you have it today, you don't have it the next day. And that's, with the capacity issues, I think that's what's going to happen the next year. It's not going to be easy. So there's still going to be a lot of challenges. The freight forwarder, they need, I do believe they need to differentiate themselves, and they need to specialize either on a product or on a trade lane. Seeing the air freight, the whole the industry and the disruption, it's very difficult to become, I'm doing everything freight forwarding. It's impossible. And talking about air freight, you still got to focus. And if you are a Latin America specialist, you have to stick on what you do. You have to take the name out to shippers like Lenovo, for example, and go and say, okay, this is what I'm good at. That's what I'm doing. Because I have that deal and I have that deal and I know that market for 20 years. I believe those general freight forwarders, when it comes to air freight, they will be very, very difficult to survive. Coming back for the consolidators and the wholesalers and the neutral brokers, I think this is their time. I mean, the professionals, that's what they do. I mean, for the last 20, 30 years, they had picked a trade lane or they specialized in a few destinations already for the last 30 years. So it's their time, because the only thing they do is brokerage, right? They don't have to follow up, you know, all the job a traditional forwarder does. So I think it's their time. I believe most of them are making some good money in these days. For the GSA, of course, for the traditional GSAs, you know, having one of the big airlines, that becomes of a problem with the bell capacity, of course. The revenue goes down. And pretty much the same for the GSA. They will have also to become a kind of a more broker, right? Looking for additional solutions, looking, you know, how to play with paper airlines and offline carriers, and try to find construction, that airline from A to B and from B to C, another airline. I mean, you see a lot of GSAs now, they're becoming solutions providers than just representing a cargo airline. And the reason we see that is they take advantage of the lack, I would say, of training in air freight brokerage from the general freight forwarders. Because as I said before, and especially even look at the multinationals, they all use an SOP. They know that they have a block space with 1, 2, 3, 4 airlines. This is the schedule. This is the rate that we sell, period. You cannot work like that anymore. And this is where the brokers, the consolidators, I would say the non-traditional GSAs are jumping in, and they make that an opportunity for them. That is how I see it happening. And I don't believe that a general freight forwarder will be able, in air freight, always talking, to really survive in the next 2 years if they don't do some nice, I would say, fine-tuning and really focus on where they're good at.
Thank you. Thank you, Christos. Stephan, what do you think, which are the...
I can only agree with Christos. I think the freight forwarder is the solution finder. I think we are needed more than ever nowadays, because you need the flexibility. Who flies from where to where? I mean, even though some people think that we still work like dinosaurs in our industry, because we are not really IT connected as well as maybe others think they are. Like if you take an Amazon Prime, or if you take the courier services, they are more, let's say, they have their own... They have their own tracing, they are connected IT-wise. And I think everybody's talking about the digital freight forwarder, meaning that you go online, you book a 500 kilos to Hong Kong, and you think you get a booking, and someone picks up the freight and flies it as booked. I think these times where we are in now is very difficult for these. So it shows that we are still, the freight forwarders is still the solution to move the cargo from A to B. There is no scheduled flight. There is no fixed rates. There are a lot of, problems where you need to find a solution, which can only be found, I think, by a freight forwarder at these times. That's why, unless the market really gets back to stabilizing as we had it in the past, I think the digital forwarder is not that much in advantage at the moment. Mm-hmm. So freight forwarding and our industry, and as I said, it's also, we all of a sudden are also contacted more and more from customers we have maybe never heard of, because their forwarder can't find their solution. Sure. So the opportunities for us are bigger at the moment. And I think the stable freight forwarders, the multinational companies who have always have their block space and their consolidations going from A to B, it doesn't work nowadays. So the industry is looking for solutions. Yeah. And that's, I think, a win-win for mid-sized companies. And so I think we will still be around for many years. Of course, you can never say how long. 5 years, you maybe can say, yes, that's how far I can foresee. But the freight forwarder, particularly this time, is playing a very major role. Yeah.
Yes, that's a very, very nice, I would say, opinion or standpoint, that if you say that we have to be, or also the freight forwarder, but on the airport, the GSA have to be a solution provider, have to be very flexible. New times, new problems, new issues. So everybody must be very open and flexible. We received, meanwhile, a question from the audience. Thanks for the great panel. I manage web cargo. We have seen an explosion in airline instant e-bookings. How have airline dynamic rates and e-bookings affected you? I don't know who would like to explain this. Maybe a freight forwarder from Stephan or Arnulf? Stephan, you mentioned digitization.
That's what I actually just said. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean, these e-booking systems at the moment are difficult. Okay. I mean, airlines have e-booking systems. You go online, you book a shipment today, or you look into the rates today. Tomorrow it could be a whole different rate. So
I'm looking for. Yeah.
I think we still need to be individually talking to the airlines direct and to our customers verbally, rather than just e-booking at the moment.
Arnulf, how you think this from freight forwarder point of view, this e-booking?
From the freight forwarder point of view. Well, at the end, it always comes back to as was what I said at the beginning. We are a service industry, and at the end, it's the question of how you feel that impact. Yeah? We cannot change that. Yeah? As I said, I think. First of all, what really got lost was predictability. First of all, in terms of schedules, so when is an aircraft flying to where, in terms of the rate. I would assume you made big tenders in the past with rates for a year or two or 4, you know what I mean? That's all not possible anymore. Yeah? So I think the impact was much more on the shipper. Obviously, as Stephan said, we are the solution provider. Yeah? We cannot, as the forwarder, we cannot change the industry, yeah? But we can always try to find the best way around it. And obviously, to have dynamic rates is very clear from the airline perspective, yeah? Because you turn this into really now a market space, a marketplace with spot rates. Yeah? So and I bump you if I find somebody that gives me 10 cents more or something. Yeah? That's the ball game, honestly speaking. Yeah? If I like it or not is not really the question. Yeah? The question is, how do we maneuver as the freight forwarder, as a solution provider to you, and at the end give you back as much of the predictability, ways to plan ahead, and help you manage your supply chain. Yeah? That's the challenge. And I couldn't agree more than to what Stephan said. Yeah? For the medium-sized, smaller ones, it's now a very good time, yeah? Because we were used, or we always kept doing things with the hands, yeah? And not with the machine.
Absolutely, and I think it's more in our DNA.
It's more in our DNA.
To be flexible, to find solutions. This is what we do every day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, a big machine also has its advantages. Yeah. So it's, but the machine is not let's say working as effectively as it did before.
I think
that's one of the things we all have to cope.
It's a parallel tool, actually. The booking machines. I mean, of course we use them, of course, but it is not the pure answer.
No, and we haven't invented it. We deal with it.
Absolutely.
It's obviously driven by airlines.
I agree.
As you said, the blocked space agreements and the rates that come with a blocked space agreement. They are not there for the time being, at least. Yeah, so this.
I agree. And that was actually
it changed it all into an ad hoc. That's what it is. Yeah.
One of the advantages, I would say, for the industry during COVID is like the industry adapted, actually went really fast with digitalization. They were too slow, but during the last 18 months, freight forwarders, GSAs, airlines, they picked up really, really fast. And we can see that as we fast for every professional air freight forwarder, it will come to a point that you will have access to dynamic rates on every airline. You will be able to play with destinations and origins, geographical maps, analytics. I think it's a great advantage, and that is I would say, an advantage the whole industry had during the last 18 months. We had to adapt, and we can see the results now. I mean, I do not know exactly some IATA results on the e-bookings, but I think it's increasingly, it's really, really going high month by month. They're doing a very good job.
Thank you, and especially you mentioned e-commerce earlier, that the e-commerce is also booming, especially Central and Eastern Europe represents an $80 billion e-commerce market, so that's quite a big market. As we feel now also from our perspective, Budapest Airport, that the big platforms are now started focusing very, very intense on our region, fulfillment centers, distribution centers, but this e-commerce business cannot be operated anymore without digitization. In this new environment after 1st of July, then you have to customs clear and report everything what you import to the EU, and in Poland you had 10,000 shipments or 10,000 boxes. Yeah. What you have to customs without a digitized interface software environment is not working. So that's the market. I would like to encourage the audience to use this application for more questions if you like. Going back to the successful air cargo in the upcoming years, Arnulf, would you like to add more, like you mentioned, the cooperation, flexibility, especially focusing on the clients like shippers, and for me as an airport and for water is also a key client. So the airports has to focus on the freight forwarders. Would you add something else as a crucial development point?
From the freight forwarder point of view?
From any point of view, as you feel.
So I think this, as I said at the very beginning, and I think it's more or less the last round we are doing. We've got 4 minutes or so. It's a very special time, yeah? And I think the title that we chose was also very clever, because any special time brings opportunities and it brings a lot of threats. And it depends really on how quick and how well you are able to adapt to a new situation. And as a fact, COVID changed the world. That for me remains a fact. I said this even in the morning when I said, oh my God, I live a little bit outside of Vienna, and I said, I have to go to Bratislava today. So this is almost like a long-haul travel for me. So it changed me personally, and we got used to technology, and all of these things will remain. That's a fact. And I think, as always, what everybody, whoever is in the industry, be it the shipper, be it GSA, airport, it's a question of how quickly you can adapt to change, and that's a question of what your mindset is, and of course look at it positively and see what's in for me, what are the opportunities that a change can bring. If you just sit there and say, oh my God, I lost 50% of that and 30% of this, and then you're already out. So to answer your question, it's a question of mindset.
Thank you. Thank you. I would say maybe this is the most difficult and maybe this is the easiest thing to change at the same time, the way of thinking. Martin, you are basically, as a shipper, you are the final customer of everything what we do here. How you think that what is the most important thing for you as a final customer of the air freight to change, to develop in the next 2-3 years?
Well, it's definitely a good question, because obviously, and all of us agree on it, if we look either in the e-commerce or high-tech and other medical areas, I mean, like everything is growing and moving, it's going to be more and more difficult. I definitely see that the forwarders play a role as well in the e-booking systems, because I think it depends on the shipper strategy, right? If you are looking for long-term deals where you are more predictable, where the rates are set for, let's 12, 24 months as it used to be, or you are looking for the opportunities that are emerging, and especially now, I would hope that those e-booking systems, as well for the freight forwarders who are then actually facing their customers, which are us as the shippers, should allow to seek, let's say, the changing market, the dynamics and the opportunities, right? Because who else, if not the airlines, it's these days dictating and bringing the new solutions, new capacities, adding flights. And it should be the freight forwarder, in my opinion, who can spot them immediately, right? And having the ability to be connected to e-booking solutions, I would hope that it gives it to you, right? And then you can come to us as clients with solutions which have not been there, maybe new gateways and new emerging, let's say, flows which the airlines traditionally did not have. We saw that many of the main airports, especially you see in the US, congested, it takes up to a week to get something out of the airport. And this is where the freight forwarders were clever, because they looked into the charter solutions and they went into the let's say, the second level tier airports, where you have much faster processing opportunities, and it's much, let's say, a better solution for us as a shipper. And for me, the future, well, I hope that passenger flights going to be starting, because all of us would like to go somewhere finally, right, after such a long period.
Driving to Miami
not only driving
from Slovakia, yeah.
And we shall see. I mean, like, there are a lot of geopolitical situations which are influencing it. We see the power outages in China might influence it differently as all of us are thinking, right? Maybe temporarily there's going to be supply available for a period of time until the supply chains can adjust again. And I think, as you said, I think the airlines, no matter they've done a good job during the last 2 years, they need to develop themselves and be more agile into situations as they are coming, and have a right mix between passengers and cargo. It can't be only one or the other. That doesn't work anymore. So.
Everything must work in a system. So it's like collaboration is also key important, this word for us. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the panel discussion participants. I really enjoyed this conversation and discussion. But we can maybe wrap up at the end that air freight was always important. Air freight became more important for all of us in the industry, in the civil society. There are challenges ahead of us, but you can see that there are different stakeholders from different sectors, but everybody is working on the best solutions. I would say that, and the collaboration, flexibility were the key words for today. And until we have this, I guess we have a bright future for the air freight. Thank you for the audience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.